You're Julian on the brown note, and the sun's just come through. And just like with music reviews, I've got so many films to catch up on as well. There's not a lot I can do about this now. It's the last sunlight of the winter's day in Sydney, as you can see, freezing. So I'm reviewing the Finnish John Wick Sisu, which came out a little while ago, and the sun's streaming, so you can watch it whenever you want. A Finnish director called Jorma Tommila. Now, I have seen his previous film, which starred Samuel L. Jackson, called Big Game, which got a fair amount of acclaim about the US president's plane being downed in a Finnish forest and him hooking up with a hunter while he was being pursued. I thought it was so bad. There's a bit in it where Samuel L. Jackson is like being carried off the ground like in a helicopter, and he's hanging underneath it in this like box. And you could like just step out. It's like 3 feet above the ground. Anyway, Sisu, a much, much better film than that. So we get a commando called Sisu, a Finnish Artami Korpi, is that his name? Artami Korpi, played by Jorma Tommila. I don't really know anything about him, but he's a Finnish actor. He was in Big Game, so he was probably the hunter in Big Game. So the best thing about this film is it's set at the end of World War II, when the Nazis are on the run in Finland in this amazing tundra. Like, it's not snow and ice, it's just this incredible matte, dark, forbidding brush landscape. It looks amazing. And you feel like you're in the top of the world, and it kind of adds to this the atmosphere of. So the Nazis are on retreat all over Europe, and many of them are trying to flee, and they're doing the scorched earth policy of going from one Finnish village and massacring and raping everyone. They're even shown at the start to have a truck full of women that they're just raping, and that they use to clear minefields with. So it's pretty grim stuff. But the character of Artami Korpi, he's an ex-Finnish commando in one of the many ridiculous elements to what is often presented in a really straight-faced, serious film, to the better. It's that he used to work as a Finnish commando and had killed 300 Nazis. Or had killed 300 Russians. I really like the fact that it flipped backwards and forwards between that. So it was like the enemy was one side and then the other side. And he was someone they let loose, like an avenging angel of death and like a John Wick character. Someone that gets injured over and over and over, but keeps getting up and keeps killing. He's a gold prospector now. He doesn't want anything to do with war. He barely says one word the entire film. I know he speaks at the end. I'm not sure for a few words. I'm not sure if he actually speaks throughout the rest of the movie. And it's a movie that is as steely. It makes John Wick look like Barbie at times. Probably my favourite film of the year, John Wick 4, actually, so far. So he's found a massive amount of gold. And it kind of blurs the intensity and the bleakness of There Will Be Blood in the opening sort of half an hour or so, where you got Daniel Day-Lewis on his own getting injured and eventually finding a lot of wealth. But he finds all this gold, packs up, and is trying to get back to a major city to sell the gold. Unfortunately, along the way, he runs into a Nazi convoy who are just murdering every Finnish person they can get their hands on, unless they're an attractive woman. In which case, their fate's even worse. So they don't care about him, but they find the gold, and we see that he is like this lethal weapon. Throughout, he gets more injuries than John Wick. Like, it's beyond belief how many times he gets really badly injured, but he kills them all, and he keeps marching onwards, running into more and more Nazis as he goes. And eventually sort of liberating these chicks that are the Joy Division of the Nazis in this truck, and coming into this like war with the leader of one Nazi troop, who decides not that he's working for the Germans anymore, but that they're all going to get shot at the end of the war for being murdering bastards. So he wants the gold to set up a new life. So there's the two competing heist movie style forces that both want the gold. And we get very imaginative sequences along the way. There's one in a minefield as well, where he gets blown up off a horse quite brutally and spectacularly. And there are many supremely violent sequences along the way, and burnt out villages and just degradation and horrors of war. It's an amazing film. I think if I've got problems with it, it's yes, it is self-aware of what kind of film it is, but because it's presented in such a grim, realistic tone, colour palette, it disobeys the laws of physics a bit too much. I don't think it needed to. There are times when he's getting so injured, you're just like, you could have injured him half as much, because it's just so unrealistic that he'd be getting away with this. Particularly one sequence in a plane crash, but the whole sequence on the plane, it's magnificent. So it's a toss-up between how brilliant the action sequences are and the fact that they over-egg it a bit too much, too many times. It's like he went out and killed 300, and you could have said he killed 100. But he received such a whipping that it's almost supernatural to be able to continue. And I thought they could have toned that down a little bit. I know that happens with John Wick, but I feel like John Wick's almost presented in a slightly more comedic manner than this film is. I preferred this when it was doing it straight-laced. I thought the lead guy was fantastic. Who was he? Jorma Tommila is fantastic as the most grizzled lead guy you'll ever see in a film, and doesn't speak for 99% of the film. No one else stands out particularly. They're not given that much to deal with. Was there one actor? Jack Doolan. I did recognise that name as Wolf. An English actor, The Green Grass, EastEnders, The Bill. Yeah, so he I did recognise. But yeah, everyone else seems to be a local. I love the progression and the way that it ended. I always like people like this having some form of positivity towards the end. And there's some good for what? How much did it cost? €6 million. There's some really nice big action scenes as well. That would grace a Tom Cruise movie almost, and some really ultra violent scenes as well. So yeah, it's terrific stuff. Just slightly over egged. Well worth watching. It's in English, so that was quite interesting because even the Germans, who are the only people that really speak in English, which is kind of weird. It's like, I think he speaks in Finnish at the end, and you get subtitles, but all of the Germans speak in English throughout, and they're really nasty Nazis as well. Particularly I suppose that's a redundancy, but particularly nasty Nazis. So if you like that kind of super violent John Wick kind of film, this is superb. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 for Sisu.